everyone, and thank you for joining me here on Songbird Collage Arts and coming along with me on this journey to make a new collage today. So I usually start out with a canvas board. So this is just a Winston & Newton artist canvas board. It's 8 by 10. I tend to get a selection of different sizes from Amazon. So I have some that are 5 by 7, some that are 9 by 12, some that are 8 by 10. This one here is 8 by 10. Sometimes I do collage on Bristol board, but the problem with Bristol board is that because it's so thin, sorry, sometimes you have to use your teeth to get the plastic off. Because Bristol board is so thin, it tends to warp as it dries, whereas these thin boards, they don't warp at all. They're lightweight, they're cheap. I try not to spend more than about $1.50 per board. The more volume you buy, the cheaper they are. You can find these on Amazon. You can also find them at the dollar store, or Dollarama has artist boards. They're not the exact same brand, but it's the same idea. And because you're not painting on it, you know, I wouldn't be concerned about if it's like triple finished, matte, or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. That's the board. Okay, so glue. So the glue that I use is the glue we've all grown up with, the Elmer's school glue. I've tried a few different versions of the Elmer's. This one here is the one that I've been using for the first few videos that I have on here. What I don't like about this is it's really gummy and sticky. So when you're rubbing it on your image, it chunks off in big gobby, gunky yuck. So I'll use it up till it's gone because I'm really super frugal, but I don't like this particular thickness of glue. The one that I prefer is the purple washable school glue. So it comes out purple when you're rubbing it on the image, but it dries clear. This is also really good to help you to see where you've glued on the image to make sure that it has glue all over it and you're able to adhere the image really well to the paper. Okay. The other thing that I have is a really sharp pair of shears. So, and I like purple, obviously. You really want to make sure that these shears are only used for paper. If you want to get those nice clean cuts, make sure that you have a really nice pair of scissors. I got 3 pairs of these for like 16 bucks off Amazon. I believe these are the Amazon Basic brand. Really cheap, really useful. The other thing for me is I have arthritis and I also have carpal tunnel, so my hands sometimes don't function the way that I want them to. So sometimes you'll see me using a blade. Let's see if I can find that puppy here. So I also have this little basket here. My husband and I only live in about 800 square feet, so I try to keep my crafting as contained as I can. But you can see here, I have a little artist scalpel. These are super cheap. You can get one for like $2 or $3, and they come with replacement blades and a little safety cap. But as you can see, if I can get that, oop, nope, can't, oh, there it is. Still trying to figure out working in the camera. But it's really, really super sharp. But what's really good about these is that you can get in those really fine details. The problem with these with me is that sometimes my motor function isn't 100%. So I'll be like in the middle of a cut and all of a sudden my hand will go numb and I'll be like, whoa, right? So I only use these when I absolutely have to. And I make sure when I use them that I use a safety mat. Okay, I don't want to cut into my table. I don't want to cut into my board. I don't really want to cut into, sometimes I do it because I'm in a passionate moment of creativity and I see an image I want, so I'll slice into a magazine, but the problem with that is that it'll cut into subsequent pages, so you might lose an image that you really like that ends up having a slice through it, right? So what I try to do, sometimes I'll slip a board, like if I see an image, but I know that I don't want the whole image, or I know that I don't need everything, I just want a small square, sometimes I'll place the board under and make a cut so that I can still retain the rest of the page for future projects. These are also really, really inexpensive. I think I got this for maybe $2 at the dollar store. This one I like for slipping in between pages because it's about the size of a magazine page, and I do apologize for the wobbling. I have 3 cats, Bella, Sluggy, and Bailey. And in my first few videos, you'll notice I tried it with a table mount, having the camera mounted on an apparatus that attaches to the table. You can see in the first 4 videos that when I'm doing the gluing, it's like super shaky, and I really apologize for that. The video quality will be a lot better going forward. But the way that it is now is it's on a floor mount, but anytime a cat walks by and rubs up against it, it shakes. So I apologize in advance because I know it's annoying watching videos are shaking. So this is another mat. These ones are also good if you want to get specific curves. I tend to freehand. I'm pretty spur of the moment, just want to kind of, I'm also, because my hands, you know, the more that I use them, the harder it is on the arthritis. I just want to use scissors and get through the cuts as fast as possible. The cutting is the hardest part for me. The designing, the gluing, the figuring out the colors, all of that stuff is my favorite part. I do like the cutting. It's just not as fun now as I'm not as dexterous as I used to be. So, okay, I'm just gonna take a drink. I will say too that I do a lot of talking in my regular job, in my day job, so my throat is constantly sore. So I apologize in advance if I sound hoarse or if I cough or if I end up losing my voice. Especially with working from home now, all of our meetings are through Zoom, so you're like in meetings all day and talking all the time, and my voice is just raw. Okay, so just to get into a little bit about my process. So as I mentioned before, my husband and I live in a really small, I mean, it's comfortable for the 2 of us and the 3 cats, the little beasts that they are. But I try to live a more minimalist kind of life, so I don't tend to have a lot of materials for my art laying around. I have a really limited supply of magazines. So if you see me flipping through the same 2 or 3 magazines, the reason that I'm doing that is not only like look at this one here. So the whole spine's ripped off, the covers, both covers are ripped off. There's like chunks of pages missing and stuff. I will use this magazine until there is like literally just the spine left. The reason for that is, number one, I'm cheap. Not cheap, frugal. I like to consider myself frugal. With the COVID, it's really hard to get your hands on used magazines. In our area, all the recycling centers are closed, all of the recycling resale centers. So some of these magazines I actually bought from Goodwill, which I like never do. They were only $1.50 each, but for somebody who's an artist, you know, you're always trying to do it as economically as possible, especially if you're looking to sell your art, because, you know, the cheaper that you can produce it, the more profit you get in the end. So the other thing to keep in mind too, I'm always looking at the colors of things. I did one of those tests online one year and got 100% on the color, my color perception. I seem to have a really keen sense of not necessarily what colors go together, but what colors are in the same sort of monochrome. You can see it on Dolphina, especially with the different shades of gray, the different gradients of the ivories and the white, and then like big splashes of color. Yeah, I'm always looking at the page, not just at the images. Like I would look at a chicken leg and go, okay, what could I do with a chicken leg? What does it look like? It looks like a rock. Okay, like if I cut off the legs of the, or like the butt of the chicken leg, that kind of looks like a beach pebble or something, right? So again, you're looking at the scale of what you're making. Like if I was making a big giant canvas image, these little chicken legs would look really cool as like paving stones towards a big house or something like that. Like, you just have to look kind of third dimensionally. I'm also constantly, I don't tend to use a lot of words in my work, but I do use a lot of food, flowers, gardens, some landscapes. I like putting the surreal into the everyday. I also like animals, so there's a lot of animals in my work. But again, with any sort of artwork, I'm not trying to make a statement. I'm just having fun. But I also want the image to be visually appealing for the person that, you know, enjoys that in their home, right? So yeah, there's a lot of consideration that goes into the type of magazines that I pick, like especially, well, when I'm buying them especially, but I'm always looking at, I have a pretty good memory. The other thing too is that you'll see me grab magazines and like flip right to an image and go, aha, it's because I remember that I've seen something similar, especially with magazines that are from the same publishing company. Usually they'll have similar advertisements. So if you find an image that you like in one magazine, like for instance, Real Simple, I know that Martha Stewart Living is the same company. So I look in the Martha Stewart Living magazines to see if I can find duplicates, because it's really cool to add dimension with duplicate images, or you can do like split images and like build off one side and you know, do a contrast on the other. So that's something to keep in mind too. So I also wanted to show you a couple of books that I got from Value Village up here in Canada. I'm always looking for interesting images. So there's a lot of stuff in this book. I just was walking down the aisle and I was looking for specific collage materials, but I was looking for something that had a matte feel, that was really colorful, that was easy to cut out. So if you look here, even if I do like a really thin white border around, the image is so clean on the edges that this will collage well into any image that I want. There's also a lot of greenery. Again, I'm looking for images that have either a white background, or if I'm gonna find something that has a green background, then in the images or the magazines that I'm going through, I'm gonna look for this particular shade of green. So this is one of my latest finds, and I think this was $4.99. See, really cool insects. I find too that this type of stuff is really fun to do surreal imagery with. So you would have this big diving beetle, and I'd cut this out and put it over like a cityscape or something, you know, with his little feelers crawling on top of the buildings and stuff. Like, I don't know how creativity works or how inspiration works, but whenever I start a project, I'm just flipping through materials, not really thinking about any specific plan. I know the one with the garden, the garden giant. I had seen the picture of the legs with the root vegetables earlier on. I had cut it out for a different project and I didn't end up using it, but I remembered that image and I thought, you know, that would be a really cool thing to try to make a new collage out of. So sometimes I'll rework unused images from previous projects into my current work. And then this one, I also got at Value Village. This one is called The Art of Color Photography. I'm also a photographer, Songbird Photography on Instagram. So I'm always on the lookout for photography books. But with that, there's not a ton. I mean, I already know a lot of this stuff. I am interested in it. So the pieces that are in text, I'll try to leave where I can. But there's so many cool images in here, different colors, you know, opportunities for me to, you know, snip out some of these images and reuse them in collage. And, you know, other people's work is just extraordinarily beautiful. And the way that this particular head is shot, she doesn't really have a neck, but there's a really distinct line where her face is. So this would be awesome for collage because I could just take her head and pop it on something else's body. So this was a really cool find. I was really excited when I got this book a couple weeks ago. All right, well, I'm gonna get started with collage, and I'm gonna not try to talk so much, just because my throat is a bit raw. And I am actually going to just grab a cough drop, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. One of the other things that I wanted to show you is sort of my collection of unused scraps from other projects. So in some of my videos, you may notice that I find an image, I'll cut it out, I'll try it on the picture, and I won't like the composition or the color, or something won't fit with it, or it's not matching my creative vision or whatnot. But I don't want to lose those images, so I just have little Ziplocs that I keep all my scrap images in. So sometimes I'll start from scratch by looking through magazines, or sometimes I'll kind of scavenge through images that I've already partially cut out. Today I'm feeling bold, so I'm going to go right from scratch. With my threadless shop, the images that look the best usually are things that are vertical, but my personal taste and my sort of preference for design is always landscape. So I don't go into a project thinking, oh, this is going to be landscape, or oh, this is going to be, you know, portrait. I just kind of, whatever image I discover out of the magazine kind of dictates the orientation of the page. So we'll see how it goes. So I have some new magazines that I wanted to kind of poke through. Let's safety first. Okay. And the bad thing about this is that I'm hungry too. So if you see cuts in the video, or like I skip ahead, it's probably because I went to make myself something to eat, because I'm looking through all this delicious stuff for all this time. So right away, I'm looking at this thinking, what does this look like? What do I want to make out of this? Doesn't really speak to me today, so I'm just gonna keep flipping. This is interesting. I do like this. I think I'm gonna start with this actually. And look at that. So that's the first page of the magazine, and I'm already like, whoa, I want to put this in my picture. Thank you, Target. So just snap that out. So what I'm thinking already is, if you look at the orientation of the bag, it's just naturally portrait. So I can build my image directly off that with this bullseye right in the center. So because I know I'm going to use this image in this way, I'm going to trim it down right away. And again, there are no mistakes in collage. I mess up all the time, especially with arthritis. Sometimes I go, oh, like that. And you'll see it in some of my videos where I accidentally make a snip, and I'm like, oh, I'm so defeated because I was like trying to be so careful and close. And again, because it's not technically fine art, I mean, I would love to think people think it's nice, but I'm not as concerned with the surgical level of cuts. Okay, so getting a rough cut here, and I want to get it as close as possible, because if you look, I'm trying to get rid of any of the black tone on the outside of the image, the shadow, because I want the color to be consistent. There is a little bit of this orangey peach color. I'm gonna leave it in for now. What I could do potentially is cut it closer on either side, but then I'm gonna lose too much of the bullseye. So I'll probably either ignore it or try to work it into the image. The other thing too is trying to decide, you know, how do I want the loop oriented? Do I want it right up or upside down? So you'll see me, I'm constantly, you know, trying to figure out where I want stuff to go. I don't know. I'll have to wait and see how that goes. Okay, so we have a starting point here. This color is a really kind of rusty red. Doesn't have a lot of blue tone in it. Really bright, nice concentric circles. Has that bit of white in it. So I'm just gonna start going through and looking for similar colors. We're actually pretty fortunate because Target's whole advertisement here is the right shade of red. So what I'm gonna do is tear this out and set it aside so that if I decide to go that way, I have this ready to go. The other thing that strikes me is this. I don't know if you can see that here. The texture of the basket, I think, is really cool. So I'm gonna steal that too and see if there's a way that I can work that into the image. I mean, even looking at, oops. So even looking at colors like this, different sort of, you know, how can I make this flow out of the bullseye? How can I make it integrate? The color's not quite the same, so I'm gonna pass on this and I'm just gonna flip through and see if there's anything else that catches my eye. The other thing I'm starting to think about here is because parts of it are kind of cut off, it's almost like a conduit for either like sunbeams or rays or maybe different prisms or beams of light or something like that. I was even thinking maybe lightning bolts, sort of like a techno radio theme. So just some initial thoughts with the old bullseye there. See, like I just, an affogato, or what's it called, an affogato, whatever. Affogato, I was right the first time. So good, like one of the best things ever. If you haven't had one of these, they're delicious. This is really interesting to me. Right away, just boom. So is that a little Grinch Stole Christmas? I'm not sure, but I'm kind of digging it. I don't know. With like the spray of the, I'm gonna snag it because I'm thinking about it. And that's the thing too. Just because I tear it out of a magazine doesn't mean that this is gonna get recycled or thrown out. Like, this is an image that I know I'm gonna want to use at some point. May work for this project, may not, but we'll see. So the other thing to keep in mind is I'm looking at these beer cans thinking, there's a thematic sort of parallel between the bullseye and yada yada. The circles, the color is even similar, but I have to be really careful with things that are trademarked. So if you plan on selling any of your artwork, you have to be really conscious that there's no logos, no trademarks, no copyright. This is more ambiguous. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to argue in court, I would think, that, oh, this is a Target bag. I mean, yeah, it's a bag with a bullseye on it. I mean, so just to keep that in mind, I would love to use these. I have looked at these before and thought, that's too bad. I might go back and actually cut these out and put something over top of the lights, but not today. Sometimes you'll see me too kind of just sitting here and staring at an image. It's because I'm trying to think, number one, how hard is this going to be to cut out? Like, am I going to go through and cut out each individual tomato and make that part of the image? Am I going to use this as some sort of base for the image? You know, where I could have similar colors going through. I'm also looking at the garlic here and looking at the striations in the skin of the garlic and kind of recognizing that it parallels somewhat to the stripes in the, so I'm always looking for patterns, for textures, for colors, for commonalities in theme as well. See, even these tomatoes down here would be a lot easier to cut out. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna grab these guys right here. because I kind of like the tomato theme. They're round. They match the kind of circular pattern of it. So just getting some ideas. All right. I tend to go through pretty quickly, especially if I'm looking for specific, not even specific, but sort of tonal commonalities. Oh, I love this. It doesn't match with what I'm working on today, but I would love to use that in a future image, like with unicorns or something. I don't know. I really like it. Okay, so I'm kind of digging the sort of stripiness of this basket, but I'm also looking at these dishes. See here? I really like the layered sort of stacked look. So I'm kind of on a mission now to see if I can find more neutrally colored dishes, because I'm liking the flow of these lines here. And I'm actually also going to grab this. Because it has that same sort of linear pattern. Oh, I like this too. So, and you know what's interesting is I've never talked while I've done this before. So if I'm rambling, I apologize. But I just want to give you kind of a stream of consciousness of what I'm thinking as I'm doing this. When you're looking through a magazine, normally you're not really paying attention to the patterns, the different commonalities between images or different thematic, you know, you're just reading each individual page. If there's a section that's on one specific theme, yeah, that's nice. When you're looking for collage items, I don't know, it just, things sort of start to naturally pop out, right? So I wasn't looking for like a candy cane barbershop stripe, but as soon as I saw it, I thought, hey, ta-da, it goes together, right? So whether I want this to somehow integrate into the spiral or the concentric circles, or whether I want to have this on another part of the image. And again, my initial plan is for this to be in the center of a portrait facing image, but there are no rules. I mean, that could change at any moment. Like this could end up, I could split this in half. I could have the rings going out from each other. There's a lot of potential. So I'm always looking for things that kind of match, kind of go together, kind of make sense. All right. And of course, now I want mini donuts, but that's another topic for another day. That's a whole nother channel. Even this little, can you see that? Like, to me, that's really visually interesting, and it sort of has those same lines with the curves, but the color, I don't know, I'm digging it. We'll see. All right, let's talk more work. Okay. This comes back to what I was saying before. Duplicated advertisement. So now I have two of those stripes that I can use in my image. One of them is obviously smaller, but I mean, you can use that for perspective, to show depth. There's a lot of opportunities for that. And again, this is gonna go into my scrap pile. I'll probably trim it off, but I never throw out anything that has potential collage value on it. Oh, bacon. All right. Oh, this looks like the ocean. These little squares here. Another project, oh, with these two. See, and that's another thing too, is I'm constantly thinking about other future, I'm looking at all the images, not just the ones that I may want to use here. spaghetti. I'm looking at this steak, not just because I'm hungry, but I really like how it's plated, how it's fanned. I'm just wondering if I can integrate that in somehow. I'm gonna grab it. Got salami. It's coming with me. And again, what I'm looking for are things that are like similar in shape. Love Ina. Oh, more ocean. I'm gonna have to come back and do like a caramel colored oceanscape or something. These are interesting, actually. I'm kind of having a moment with this, this weird dragon fruit jack-o'-lantern. I don't know, he's kind of calling out to me. Okay, so this is where my thoughts are going right now. Remember this thing that I got earlier? What if I put this head right here, had that spraying out, had this as the body of the Jacko head thing with, I don't know. I'm gonna work it. We'll see how it goes. Inspiration sprung. That's why I love collage. It's so fun to just look at something and go, hey, this looks like a face. It is a face. It's also a fruit, which I love. I love anything organic, anything bright, colorful, and I'm just gonna go with it. Okay, so let's just take a stop check here and see what we've got. Okay, I'm just gonna trim down some of my images just so that I can work with them easier. I also don't wanna take the time to trim them down completely because if I decide that I don't wanna use it, I don't wanna waste that time. Okay, so there's the head. I'm so excited. It's so fun collaging. It's such a stress release. You get your creative juices flowing. It's cheap, doesn't cost a lot of money. Anybody can do it, your kids. It's a great family activity. You know, I find when you collage in groups too, you kind of feed off each other and like creative ideas just bounce around and everybody just ends up having a really good time. So here's my dragon head face hair, or like spines or something. But look how cool it is with like the little sharp pieces on the aloe. Like, oh, I'm so excited. Okay. The other thing that I really like is that it already has defined edges. So I don't need to really worry about trimming it. I'm gonna try to make the rest of the collage match this sort of light white gray color. There's also writing up here, but I don't know if I want to cut it off just yet. I might overlay something on top. So yay, I'm so excited. Okay, let's go here. The other thing that I'm always conscious of, part of this is just from being a photographer, is composition. So I'm always looking for how it can fill up the canvas, how it can just have flow and movement and and fill the whole page. If it was just something like this where I was like, oh, this guy's cool, and I could put like, I don't know, I could have like a tomato body and, you know, kind of build out a figure without any interest in the rest of the image, I think it would feel really sparse. It wouldn't feel complete. So I'm always looking for ways that there's a balance of white space, but with big splashes of color. Yeah. So you can see here, there's a big gap. So what I'm gonna be looking for is either similar colors to this green, or maybe like a big long piece of arugula, or like a romaine lettuce leaf or something like that, so that I can continue this look of it. But because it's going off on this direction, I'm probably just going to finish these two branches and have more balance on this side with probably a different color. Okay, so here's the head. Yeah, I really like this. I'm gonna spend the time now just to cut him out. And again, I'm not being super picky about my cuts. I want it to look nice, but at the same time, I know if I'm gonna spend 3 hours making a collage that I have to save my hands. So the cuts sometimes aren't as precise as my artistic sensibilities would like them to be. But I several years ago kind of had to just let it go, that they're not going to be perfect. They're not going to be perfect. I see some artists that, you know, confidently wield their artist's scalpel and, you know, do really delicate, intricate, fine cuts. And, you know, I really admire that type of work, but mine's more folk arty, which I really like. Even for my own taste in the type of art that I prefer, I like it to be a bit more folky. Other than photography, which I'm a little highfalutin about, but that's that. So just trying to get around. And the cool thing about vegetables, which may be why I gravitate towards them, is that they tend to be kind of bumpy. So the cuts don't have to be as precise. And you can fudge it, right? Like, oh, there's a little wiggle. Oops. Oh, it just had a blemish on its skin, right? Like, it's not a big deal if I make an erroneous slice now and then. All right, so I'm just trying not to cut myself. And here we go. So while I'm making these cuts, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been doing collage my whole life. Well, I mean, as early as I could hold scissors. I think back in the old days, it was more, you know, cardboard and comic books and stuff like that. I really got into it in high school. I remember one project I did was a giant, massive tree that all the bark was like Revlon herbal essences, locks of hair. And it was so ambitious that I actually didn't finish the piece. I did okay on the mark, I guess, but I never did finish it because I didn't realize how surface area worked. Like, it would have taken me 5 years to cut out enough hair to finish it, but for the portion that I did do, it looked super cool. I might do that again at some point, but yeah, and ever since then, I've had a love of collage. I make bookmarks. Maybe I'll just go grab a bookmark and show you what it looks like. So one of the big other projects that I did probably 10 years ago was a bookmark kind of project. So I would make bookmarks out of candy and cake. They were intended for cookbooks, right? So, yeah, and just overlaying different images. I've always had a fascination with the collage process and just kind of naturally gravitated towards it. And during COVID, I started to pick it up again and fell into something on YouTube where one of the artists was giving a demonstration of his collage making process, and I thought, oh, I could do that. That seems really cool, because I was already collaging again. But I thought, you know, what a cool opportunity to connect with people during this time and just set aside time every week to be creative. And, you know, there's not a lot else we can do right now, so it's nice to have this sort of outlet and to be able to share with everybody. So I think that's pretty cool. All right. Okay, so we have the pumpkin dragon head thing. Look at him. Look at his hair. But if you look at his head, he already has these kind of green pokey things, which match our other green pokey things. So let's put it on and see how he looks. Oh, look. Doesn't quite fit. So now I'm trying to think, like, how can I orient the picture so that it kind of fits his head? Or, okay, thinking about that guy. Now this, I think, looks pretty cool as his body. Now it's interesting that initially I had talked about potentially cutting this down to get rid of this orangey part on the side, but when I look at his head lines up really well with the loop of the bag. So if I cut down just on either side of each loop, then I'll lose that orange part and solve my problem. So let's go do that right now. Beautiful. Okay, so now we have that thing. We have his head. Oops. So as you can see, this side here is all covered. So I don't really have to worry about much filler on this side here. This side needs some work because there's some spaces here and there's no branches to match this side. So what I'm kind of looking at it now is like, this is his, I don't know, his mane or something like that. Or if he's like a stegosaurus type animal that has that big plate behind his skull. I'm gonna wanna fill in this side of the page with a symmetrical image on this side. So that's one of the things that I'm looking for. The other thing I could do is, because I have this meat, this beautiful flank steak, I could trim this off and put it behind this side and give him kind of like a steak side head, which I think I'm gonna do because I think it looks cool, and why not? So I'm gonna do these fine cuts while I talk to you a bit more. So in my day job, I am a policy analyst for the provincial government, which I love my job. It's really fun, it's engaging, it's challenging. Every day is different, but there's not a ton of creativity involved. I mean, I do write for a living, so that's pretty cool, but it's all bureaucratic, so it's not like I can, you know, like she was walking down the golden path and blah blah blah. No, it's all bureaucratic. But that said, it does allow me a lot of mental free time to be creative in my off time, because when I'm done work, I'm done work. I just, especially now with COVID, I just go into a different room and can work on a collage or do some writing or whatnot. So yeah, I'm really excited for this point in my life where I can start to focus more on things that I really love. You know, I do focus on my hobbies quite a bit, but I found the first little bit of COVID really showed how reliant I was on my phone and technology and stuff like that, things that I don't want to be reliant on. So being able to come back to an analog format and explore my creativity and spend my time in a more constructive way is really appealing to me. So okay, so look what we have here. So that is his little steak head part of his head, which I think looks cool. But you have to remember, what I'm looking for is similar sort of patterns, textures, form. If you're looking at the pieces of steak, they're pretty similar in width to the stalks of aloe. So even though it's a different color, even though they're stubby, they don't go all the way to the edge of the page, it still kind of makes sense because it's matching a bit more what's on the other side. Plus the hues of red and pink match the red and pink there. Okay, so I'm looking at this thinking like, how can I make this into like his arms or something? Like even if I cut it in half, I could, I don't know, that's a consideration. Now, and you'll see me orienting the paper all the time because I bump it or I'm fiddly or whatnot, so it is what it is. So, look at this. Like, what are the frickin' odds? Okay, look. Now, it lines up perfectly. The lines and the white line up perfectly. So I'm putting that there regardless because it's a perfect match. The other one, if I could find it now. Well, I thought I had it, but oh, here it is. This one is gonna probably not match nearly as well, but we'll give it a go. But the other one was just something else. Okay. Maybe here? Might work there. Okay, so I'm gonna cut out those two pieces and see how I can, like maybe it's his tail or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's moving forward here. So I'm curious what your guys' favorite magazines are to use. Mine, excuse me, mine tend to be real simple. Architectural Digest, I love. Any sort of design books, home, what's it called? House and Home? Canadian House and Home. Any of the magazines that are cooking, food, because they tend to have bright advertisements, but they also have really cool pictures of food, like whole vegetables, whole fruits, things like that, that you can really integrate into different images. National Geographic is disappointing. You'll see them a lot of times at garage sales and flea markets, stuff like that, but they don't have a lot of graphical content. It's mostly text. So just be cautious. Like if anybody offers you, hey, I hear you do collage, you want some National Geos? It's like, not really. Okay, so you can see here, he's starting to get a little tail of some sort. Kind of cool. If I can find like another couple here, some sort of white striped thing that can come across the page to be sort of a tail, I think that would be really cool. Oh, look what I found. Oh, this might be able to integrate into here. Yeah, I'm just gonna snip off the red part here. And this goes back to not wasting any paper. There's always value to your images. You just have to remember that even if it's not being used today, you still may be able to use that image in the future. I'm gonna cut this. So what I'm doing now is just kind of visually trying to measure sort of where it would land, because I want to use more of that. I want a little bit more of that. So I'm going to snip it off maybe like here so that it still fits. Oops. So something like that. But then I want this to kind of chunk out the tail, if if I can kind of snip it out. There we go. So it's not exactly like the pattern is a little wonky, but it doesn't matter. It's the same colors, it's the same tones, it's just, it's cool, right? Like, I think that looks sweet. Okay, moving on to his arms. Now, I really like this cappuccino, and I'm wondering, I'm just gonna go for it, because heck, why not? Okay, so I'm cutting it right in the middle. I'm gonna cut this circle here. The other thing I was remembering is all of those caramel colored swirly bits in the magazine I just looked at. So there was like buttercream swirls, peanut butter swirls, all that stuff. So if you think about his arm here, just one second. I could set this on a backdrop of those creamy swirls and it would all kind of just flow in together. I'm thinking. Again, there are no mistakes in collage. This is just an idea. It might look really bad, but I'll never know unless I try. And again, here, I'm just gonna trim off this one just a little bit more. I'm looking at the pattern of the swirl in the coffee. You know what else has this kind of pattern as the swirl? The inside of a red onion also looks very similar. So if I come across that, I might use it to kind of beef up, beef up his mane with similar colors that sort of match. So I'm constantly thinking about things in images that I've seen before that would have the same textures, the same colors, that kind of stuff. Okay, now I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna set this aside just because I don't want to mess up the progress that I've made. And I'm gonna go back to this magazine and I remember all of those. What I'm gonna quickly skip through right now is just the images of the swirly peanut buttery buttercreamy. Ooh, this caught my eye. I'm gonna add that in right now. Remember earlier I was talking about maybe celery stalks or lettuce leaves or something like that? And look what I found. And added bonus, ta-da! We have some shading that is very similar in color to our other colors on the image. This actually really matches his face, so that'll be a really cool way to kind of bleed in from that beef. What I'm thinking is bleed in from the beef into here to fill out this. I'm excited. Yes. All right. Now, if there was a way that I could integrate French fries into it, I would, but not on this one. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, oh boy. This wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I'm gonna keep this one in mind. I'm actually gonna flag this page. I don't want to tear it out now because I may not need it, because I really like the stuff that was, oh boy. Okay, I really like these too. I wonder if this would work for, I'm just looking back at my picture here. I'm gonna save this for another day. I don't think it matches the image, because if you look, the swirl's kind of going in the wrong way, and I want this striped bit here to be his tail, and I think if I added this in, this would end up looking like his tail. So I'm gonna stick with the kale. I didn't mean to rhyme, but I did. All right. I really like these rutabagas. I'm gonna snip these out because I might be able to integrate them in. What I'm looking at is that sort of bright fuchsia pink that sort of matches in with the dragon fruit color. So I don't know what I can do with this yet, but I really like the colors of them. I like the beets too, but I think they might not quite match with what I'm going for. Geico guy. Okay, I think we're getting into the buttercream section here. No, not yet. Okay. I'm hungry. I want some. Oh, I like the zucchini too. I actually really like these tomatoes. What I'm thinking is, because I have that red steak on that side, I'm gonna parallel it on the other side with the tomatoes. So if I cut the tomatoes in half, I'll have kind of that fanned bubble shape, which I think will look really good kind of in behind there like that. And if I do like a few layers of it, it might look like one of those Victorian lace neck thingies. That's really technical fashion term. All right. I love sandwich meat in images. The ripples and the waves and the layers, love it. Not gonna use it right now, but I do love it. Okay, where is that buttercream? Well, the meringue, maybe. Not what I was looking for. I swear I saw it in here. Unless I was mistaken. And again, even though I'm looking for the buttercream, I'm still looking for other stuff that might integrate. Where the heck is it? I thought, was I looking at something else here? Is it this one? It was this one, my bad. Hey, at least I got the tomatoes out of there, and the rutabagas. Just for the sake of time. I would probably sit here and just look through the whole thing, but I will not bore you with that. Oh, ta-da, here it is. Okay, so I'm gonna snip out all of this because I think it looks like it would make a really texturally interesting. Oh no, the bacon. Oh, okay. So there's a couple things on this page that I want to use a couple of these images, so I have to make some tough choices here. Okay, so I know I want to keep the bacon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the bacon so that I can use it later and see how much of the frosting we have left. Okay, well that's not so bad. And I can use this one down here as well. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices. You know, I would have liked to use those 2 extra squares, but I'm not willing to sacrifice all that because that would look beautiful as like rolling autumn hillside or something. Like there's a lot of things that I thought of when I saw that bacon. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I can let it go. So, and that comes back to just thinking about other future projects, like the truffles. I'm going to use it at another point too. Do I want to use that one? Oh, I'm going to cut it out just in case. All right, and I saw a bunch of peanut butter later on here. See, I try to go faster and all that happens is I go slower. But you guys are here for the fun of seeing me on my journey. You know, everybody's creative journey is different. Some people go into it with a really specific idea of what they want to do. I rarely approach a collage knowing what I'm gonna make. It's always based on the images that I see. Excuse me. If you look at how the process developed just for this image itself, going through the book, each time I found an image, it spurred on the search for a complementary image. So it's like a choose your own adventure. You're always looking for the next cool image that you can integrate into your project. And that's why collage is so fun. Oh, I want to put waffles in here, but no, not today. And I know I saw one more big swirl of peanut butter. This is also where a really good memory comes in handy. Okay, I'm gonna break out the scalpel because I don't want to waste any of this peanut butter. And this is pretty thick stock that this one particular image is in. So I'm just gonna be careful as I tear it because I do want to make sure that I don't cut into the image below. But look how cool this is, right? Like it's swirly, it's yummy, it's that really cool shade of brown. If you look at his arm or his hand, it's very similar sort of swirling patterns, that kind of thing. I think that was all of the peanut buttery stuff that I saw. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring back my canvas and kind of reassess where we're at. So I know for sure I want to use these. So I'll snip this out now. And I know that I want to cut it right down the center like that. And I'm actually going to do 3 little bubbles of tomato just to get that layered look, the depth. And again, vegetables are so forgiving. Like if I make a little boo-boo, it's not the end of the world. I'm also not going to cut off the green part because I'm going to overlay that with another tomato. Okay. And one more. And again, depending on how much texture I wanted, I could look through other magazines for the same advertisement or find other tomatoes and just build up the layers of the frill color. But I think 3 is gonna be enough. I think it's gonna look pretty sweet. So let's see here, I can kind of arrange it. I want as much depth in the image as I can get. So I want as many of the little ridges showing as I can. But I also want to make sure that I'm making it a nice kind of circle. Let's see. I think that looks pretty good. And then I would just pop this under here like that. Something like that. Again, as I glue it down, I'll probably readjust it a little bit more. But something like that. With the 3 tomatoes. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to create visual balance between, oops, get that under there, this side and this side. I'm also trying to build off similar colors. It's a little bit of that red shade in that one piece of steak. And again, with the sort of curvature theme that's going on throughout the image, the tomatoes I think look pretty cool. All right, now I'm gonna trim off this kale. One of the things that I'm not gonna do, because again, I'm not a fine artist. I mean, I'm not bad, but you know what I mean. I'm not gonna go in and do these fine cuts. I'm just gonna get as close as I can, and I think a lot of it's gonna be covered up by the steak anyway, so I'm not gonna worry about it. So what kind of tools and materials do you guys use? Do you have a favorite pair of scissors? Is there a specific glue brand that you use? Do you like using white glue instead of a glue stick? What kind of material do you like to glue on? I know a lot of people that do collage arts like cardboard. Sometimes you can use construction paper is also an option, especially for kids. It's really economical to just buy a big pad of cardboard and go pick up a big stack of magazines, some glue sticks from the dollar store, and let them have at it. Because it's, I mean, obviously we're into what? Oh, it's been an hour. And I anticipate this is going to take at least another hour. So thank you for joining me on this ride. I'm happy to have you here, have someone to talk to. All right. So as you can see, I'm having a tiny bit of problem with my hand, but I'm working it. I'm just, you know, I'm not defined by these limitations. It's just a little wonky cut. It's not gonna hurt anybody. It'll add textural dimension to the image. That's the way I look at it. Are there any books or different types of magazines that you like to look through? One of the things that I'm doing right now, and it might be a side effect of being cooped up for the last year, but I'm looking through a lot of travel magazines. Really good inspiration for landscapes, and just trying to think of how you can integrate that surreal element into really beautiful, pristine scenes that seem to be kind of untouched, right? But it is making me long for travel and getting out of the house and exploring. But what's cool about collage is that because you can build any image that your imagination creates, you're constantly exploring, you're constantly learning, you're discovering new things, you're, you know, integrating different passions. I mean, if you think about the type of stuff that I collect or that I integrate into my images, I mean, I'm not building out images with guns or bullets. I don't know. I've seen a lot of collages that are more incendiary. Mine are just whimsical and playful and fun. So because of that, I don't have so much of a burden in terms of how people are going to interpret the art, because there's no statement. It's just fun. And that takes a lot of the pressure off, you know. That said, I will caution you. This is a lighthearted caution, but caution nonetheless. Be a bit conscientious about the types of images that you put into your work, because most things have some sort of connotation for somebody. So, you know, it may just be, I don't know, a cow or something like that, but that could have really, you know, sacred meaning to another culture. So, you know, I'm always kind of in the back of my mind looking at it through a lens of, you know, is this just something fun and whimsical? Okay, I'm pleased, I'm happy, it's bringing me joy, and hopefully other people will find some enjoyment in the fact that I shared it with them. So, all right, so you can see I did a couple of the finer cuts there just because there was enough room for me to get my scissors in there without too much problem. Okay, so now I have this beautiful bunch of rainbow kale, and I'm gonna place it behind the steak so that we're filling out this area a bit more. All right, get under there. Okay. All right, I'm liking that. I might actually bring it down just a little bit so that it more closely aligns with the other side. But there you go. So we're building out his crest, his big main thing there. And I'm now gonna fill in this part here. And again, I'm not sure, these are just an idea. So I'm looking at the arms going, we'll see how it looks when there's the caramel behind it and see if it flows well. And if not, we'll just have to see how it goes. There are no mistakes. I'm just at the surrender of my creativity. When's the last time you had really good buttercream? It's been a while. Another sort of note about me, I'm a classically trained chef, so I know how to make all this stuff, but I find it really hard to say no when it's made. Like, I will make a cake and my husband and I will polish it off in like 2 days, so we tend to try not to cook this kind of stuff. But he's an excellent cook too, so we're always making yummy, scrumptious stuff. But buttercream is just like next level delicious. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is this pretty swirly, delightful half moon. So if I want to maintain some sort of symmetry with my image, I can either slip it in behind or I can cut it to try to get more square inches, square centimeters out of my image. Because I have all of this under here that I'm not going to need to cover. So I'm thinking, okay. But then that covers up his hands. So I'm thinking I'm not going to use these. I've made the grand decision for that purpose. So what can I use these for instead? I'm still thinking. I really like the swirliness of those, but I don't know if it's right for this picture. So we have that, and we have that, and his little tail, and his head. Okay, so that gives symmetry to the image. And as you can see, because I sliced it, now I have an extra 2 or 3 inches of space that I didn't need to find caramel buttercream for. I could just stick it on there and we're good to go. So this is awesome. I love this. Okay, and this is a very similar color too. So I'm gonna snip, snip, snip. This one I'm gonna snip in like right into the peanut butter. I'm not gonna leave a border because I don't want there to be a separation between the buttercream and the peanut butter. Peanut butter. I actually, just for stockpiling purposes, my husband and I recently bought some Skippy, I think, or Kraft. It was Kraft peanut butter. Normally we eat all natural peanut butter. What a shock. Oh my gosh, it has so much sugar in it and like so oily and artificial tasting. It was just, it was a lot. I was like, whoa, when did this happen? It's like, I don't remember it being like this. Okay, so again, I'm looking at this thinking, is there a way that I can use this so that I can get more material out of this one swirl? I'm thinking about it, but I'm also kind of against it because I really like the swirliness of the swirl. So just for balance, I'm looking at this steak, I'm looking at the tomatoes and this big spray of kale, and I'm thinking, okay, there's this brownish color here, reddish. I'm gonna put some brownish over here. And then I'm going to look for a similar sort of swirly and possibly put that over here. Okay, I'm gonna cut out both of these and overlay them, I think. We will see. Now, I didn't mean for this to end up being like a commentary on my favorite foods, but mayo, heck yeah. Bring it on. But that's another reason why I really love cooking magazines or any like home and lifestyle magazines, is because there's usually really good shots of condiments, food, things like that, that have shadows and texture and different gradients of color in the same monochromatic palette. So now I get 2 of these big swirly mounds of yumminess. I'm gonna trim that off, and I could possibly place that beside. So you see, I'm getting a similar shape and similar texture here with the peanut butter and the mayonnaise. Slightly different colors, but visually interesting nonetheless. I hope. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. So now that I'm looking at this again, see, I didn't toss out my little hands here, because I thought I could integrate them in. Sometimes that happens. I know basically where it's gonna go. Of course, I've been looking at it too for like the last hour, so I kind of have an idea. And now my great idea of having all the caramel swirls is now kind of making these redundant. So I'm just gonna say goodbye to my little hands, my little arms, and use them in another project. Okay, I'm also looking at this. Wondering if there's a way. See, I'm kind of looking at his face and his body, which I'm gonna leave totally square. I like the contrast of the squareness with all the other rounded shapes. And the angularity of his tail, I think, works. So what I'm thinking now is kind of how a cat sits. So, or a dog, any sort of 4-legged animal, how they sit on their rump and they have their paws right up front, just sitting on their rump and with their 2 paws in front. So I'm looking at this, thinking, how can I turn this into 2 arms? So I'm just gonna go for it, I think, and try to, that didn't work. Try to, it's kind of hard because it's crooked. A little bit. And I may end up losing this because it's not, might not work. So I'm just kind of trimming, thinking like how could I make this look more like a paw? So I'm gonna do like a snip there and a snip there. So what I have, don't know if it's gonna work, is like a little A shape, kind of. So I'm gonna put that down here and see if that looks like anything. And it doesn't, so that's kind of sad. Okay, it was a thought. What I might need to do is arms that are a little bit more contrasting. What I might also do is look for animal arms and try to integrate like some sort of animal arms into his body. I'm going to, yes, I'm gonna trim, I want this to be my background color, so I'm gonna fill in all of these white spots with the buttercream. And I'm gonna try to keep with the flow of the shape of the cream, just so that I can add that kind of dimension again and just kind of like wiggle it so that it's not a straight cut, just to make it a little bit more visually interesting than just a straight line. All right. So what do you guys think? How's this one coming together? again, I don't think I've ever made a collage that I don't like because, you know, it's all part of my creativity, part of my, it's part of my soul. But really, it's an expression of myself. So I never look at any of these things as, ugh, this is ugly, or ugh, I made a mistake, or anything like that. It's like, I just made something out of a dragon fruit head and peanut butter. You know what I mean? How can it be a mistake? You're using your creativity, you're having fun, you're enjoying time with yourself or your kids if you're doing it as a project. And I mean, all's golden. Like, what a fun hobby. My husband doesn't get it. He's like, how can you sit and cut paper for 3 hours? It's like, I don't know. I love it. I can't stop. It's something that I've been passionate about for many years. And, you know, with school and building your career and stuff like that, sometimes your hobbies get set aside, or, you know, maybe you're super creative and you have multiple different hobbies, and, you know, you just spend some time focusing on one to the neglect of the others. And, you know, I have a bunch of different hobbies, so it's important to me to try to balance. You know, if I go out for a bus ride or something like that, go uptown, go to explore the city, that's a really good opportunity for me to do some photography. But if it's a cold, rainy day, or I live in Siberia, so Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, so there's a lot of downtime in the winter when you're just sitting here waiting for winter to end, because it's, you know, -40 with the wind chill and you're just freezing. So, and, you know, that may be a reason why I gravitate towards the travel magazines or like the home and garden, because it's just like lush greenery and warmness coming through the page when it's like glacial outside. Okay, so I'm really liking how this is starting to take shape. You'll notice too in my collages that I don't tend to like to leave white space. I really like the whole page to be filled. One of the things that really draws me to collage is you're always looking at the image and discovering something in it. It's kind of like Where's Waldo? It's like, oh, what is that? Oh my gosh, look at that. That's steak. That's crazy. Or in my Freddie Edison collage, the back of his chair is a shrimp ring, which to me is ironic because he's a cat, right? So just all those little nuances that you try to integrate into these images, because why the heck not? It's fun. Okay, so we have the background. That's pretty much all the peanut butter that I found. What I'm gonna do now is, I found those peanut butter shots in this Food Network magazine. So I'm gonna grab another Food Network magazine and try to find one more blob of peanut butter to fill in this, or some sort of swirly, creamy something to fill in there. And the other thing I'm looking for is more green leaves just to fill in this white space here. And then I'm also looking for some sort of animal arms to put on Dragonhead's body. Also need to figure out what I'm gonna put over here. Might just be more peanut butter. It might end up being that the red striped part of it is the only color that I have on this part of the page. And then the rest will be this sort of mocha creamy deliciousness. All right, so do we want to do the chicken legs? I have another one here somewhere. All right, so this one is, what month is this? I don't know. November. Okay, so there should be some cakery in here. There's some sort of yumminess. Mashed potatoes. That's a maybe. Actually, I'm kind of digging the mashed potatoes. Bringing this back, I'm looking over here at this shade here and how I sort of have a little bit of it here, but there's still the gap. So if I look at the color of the mashed potatoes, it's almost identical. So I'm gonna grab this puppy. Why did I do this before supper? I don't know. Okay. It looks so good with the cranberry sauce. I guess one of the big things you have to know about me is I love food. I'm a foodie. I'm a chef. My husband's also a chef, and he's not classically trained, but he's a way better cook than me. I think one of the main reasons for that is his spontaneity. And I was trained classical French, but I also grew up on the prairies, so my sensibilities tend to be really like down home, hearty, stick to your ribs, soul food type food, and he's more willing to try the ethnic stuff and like really get into. He's perfected vermicelli bowls, Vietnamese vermicelli bowls. He's perfected beef satay soup. He's also incredible at sourdough bread. Yeah, so if you see me drooling over stuff, well, part of it is that I love food, but I'm also a foodie, so it's just like, yum. Okay, I left that little nugget of butter on there, just because I don't want to dig in too much to the actual image. And if a little bit of the yellow pops out, that's okay, because if you look at the color of his jack-o'-lantern face, it's the exact same color as the butter. Ta-da! Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. Okay, so again, I'm always looking for similarities of shade and similarities of color. A lot of that just comes naturally to me. So if I see something, I'm like, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ah. It's like I'm constantly looking for things that I can integrate into the picture that has similar colors. And the more that you do it, like you may think, oh, I don't know anything about color, but you do. You put on clothes every morning, you put on makeup, you know, color with your kids. There's a lot of instances in your day, even when you're cooking, you know, you're adding herbs and things that, you know, turmeric to a curry sauce because you like the color and things like that. So there's always opportunities through your day when you are encountering color. But as an artist, you're going to start developing more and more acute awareness of different shades, different colors, different complementary ways that you can arrange them. Like for instance, pink and green are contrasting colors. So it looks really cool on the page because they're so opposite. Okay, so as you can see, I was kind of talking while I was doing that. Now we have kind of a horizon here. So what I might do to balance that horizon is put a little bit of green, a different shade of green than this up here, but a different shade of green here so that it looks like the animal is sitting on land. So this is kind of the background. This is his head, and this is going to be the foreground, or the ground that he's sitting on. So again, it comes back to the contrasting colors. So if I want this red part here to stick out, I want to make this green as kind of light as I can, but in a tone that is contrasting with that shade of red. So I'm just gonna look around, see what I can find, and at the same time I'm looking for arms and legs of an animal. So here we go. Oh, and still the green leafy stuff. The grapes. I do really like that. I'm gonna go for it. So let's just see. Again, I was looking for a lighter shade of green that contrasts with the red, and I think we've hit it. So what I'm gonna do is trim this off and see if I have enough grapes to fill all of the white space. Because if I don't, I have to go on a grape hunt, which isn't hard because, again, I'll probably just pop into another Food Network magazine, because usually when companies or corporations buy advertisement, don't ask me why I know this, they buy packages. So it'll be like, you know, for a year or for 6 months or that kind of thing. So there's oftentimes going to be a duplicated advertisement. And I'm gonna leave some of this darker green, it's almost black, in. Number one, because I don't want to cut that much, and also I need the square footage of the green color as much as I can. I want to get as much of these grapes into the image as I can. I'll probably end up cutting this in half, just so that I can use some on both sides, again, to maintain that visual symmetry. I'm going to save those red grapes for another time. I really like that translucency of the grapes. It just adds like a nice dimension. I'm having issues. Okay. Sorry, and this comes back to like sometimes my hands just don't work. With my right hand, it'll just like cramp and stop working, and then with my left hand, I have like really bad arthritis and carpal tunnel, and sometimes it just like sort of goes all wonky, or I'll lose like motor function altogether. So. But I mean, after you collage for a while, like if you notice, I'm not like snipping the image. Like sometimes I do, but not very often. I'm mostly using this middle part of the blade and just kind of like, not really snipping. I'm just kind of like making little, because the blade is so sharp and the paper is so thin that you don't really have to cut. You're kind of guiding the paper across the blade, if that makes any sense. So yeah, like I am kind of cutting, but again, it's more guiding the paper through the blade. It's a technique I've used for a long time, and it just seems to work really well to keep it steady, even. And especially for round cuts, like I'm sort of slicing, sort of snipping, and guiding it around. And the thing with the grapes and the roundness, like if you make a mistake, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm just gonna trim this so it looks more grapish, because I kind of cut off a bit too much. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is right down the middle go snip, and the reason I did that is because I want half of each on either side of the image. So this will be a really good break between the peanut butter and the green below. So because I want both on both sides, let me just see how that'll look. Looks not bad. Looks not bad. But if I want to accomplish what I want to accomplish, I'm going to need to find more grapes. So I'm going to go on a hunt in another food magazine. And again, because I'm kind of a bit of a cheater, I'm gonna look at the year and see if I have anything in that same year that I can snag an image from. So this one, oh, that's not the same. This is from the month before. So I'm just gonna take a look, and even if I don't find the exact, like what are the frickin' odds? Okay, so this is why collage excites me. Look what I found. Oh yeah, look at those juicy bundles. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this out, and yeah, I'm super stoked that I found on what, the 3rd or 4th page. Booyah, grapes, that's right. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, so this is gonna give me enough grapes to fill up the page. I can tell that already. I'm so excited. Now, I'm gonna snippa, and get all these puppies out of here. Oh, this is so exciting. That's the thing about, like, who else would get so excited about finding a bowl of grapes than somebody that does collage, right? And you'll see, you'll be collaging one day and you'll find the perfect image and just be like, oh, yes, this is what I've been looking for. Yeah, how fortunate. And if you actually, I don't know if you noticed, but the advertisement was from the Grape Association or whatever. Like it was the same company, slightly different image, but part of that annual advertising package that they paid for, right? So awesome. Okay, we're hitting the 1.5 hour mark, everybody. I'm excited that you're here with me. If you enjoy my videos, please click subscribe, click the notification bell. I'm going to try to do more of these live stream type collages. Normally I do them filmed with no commentary just because I live with another person and it's really hard to find time when it's quiet enough to film one of these. But hubby's out hunting, so I have some free time and I thought, the hydraulics in my chair just went down. You know those cheap office chairs? Okay, back to normal. Cheap office chairs that don't have very good hydraulics. Every once in a while when you're sitting, they just give out and you just slowly sink. The worst is when you're in a meeting trying to say something important and the seat starts shrinking. And then you, along with your seat, feel deflated and yada yada. All right, so I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm not gonna cut it this way. I'm gonna cut it this way so that I can use it, get more depth out of it. All right. So here we got bing, bang, boom, and grapey, grapey. Okay. I'm going to move Buddy's tail up over here just because I'm going to be working a lot in this area and I don't want to have to keep like readjusting it every 2 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to try to stretch my visual horizon as much as I can so that I don't need so many grapes, but I want it to also match on both sides. So I'm looking at something like that, I think. Yeah, there we go. Yes, it's looking really cool. Okay, so now that I have that in place, I have these grapes. I can put one right here. Put one over here. Might even something like that with something like that. I'm actually gonna snip this, I think. Try to tidy up this non-spherical orb-like thing I have here. Put that one there, and then this one I'm gonna try to stuff right in there, hopefully. Okay, now I think that looks pretty sweet. So what I need now is a little bit more here, a little bit more greenery, and some sort of feet or legs or something like that. It's coming along. All right. I mean, I could do bacon legs, I guess. Not enough contrast, I don't think. I'm gonna change it up a little bit and go for a, ooh, maybe I could find like chair legs or something like that. I'm just gonna move this back. What tends to happen is I furiously start flipping through the magazine and all the paper goes everywhere. Not that that's ever happened before or anything. Okay. What I could do too is, you know, put different eyes on the jack-o'-lantern. It's an option. I'm just looking at the eyes thinking like, I think it would look really cool with some pixelated eyes on it. Again, options. It also would look kind of cool with like big crystal blue eyes, just for that contrast of color. So I may actually do that. If I can find eyes that can cover up all of the yellow. See, they're not, well, they're kind of facing the right way. But, oh, this would have made a nice base as well. That's another thing too, is like sometimes you start flipping through magazines and you're like, oh, regret. I should have put this here or that there, but you can't really look at it that way. You have to look at it as, this is the decision I made at this particular time. And I think it's pretty good. This is interesting, actually. I don't know why I'm really drawn to this. It's like a textured textile. I don't think it's the right shade, but I really like, I like the texture of it. Okay. I'm looking at these thinking, I wonder if I can integrate that into the image. So what I'm looking at actually is the bullseyes, like all the little bullseyes in this image. Sorry, I'm just trying to, I wonder if I cut them out as squares, if I could use it as some sort of border to his body. I'm gonna just try it out, see what happens. Because right now, he's really angular. His body's very square. So I wonder if I do like little half moons, if it would look cool. So if I cut kind of tight in like a really even square, you would get all of that red color. Then I don't have to try to trim it into a circle, which always fails because my hands just don't cooperate. So then what I'm thinking is like, I wonder if I could snip it right in half and do like some sort of that kind of thing down the side of his body. I think I'm gonna go for it. I think I will. Let's see how it goes. And this comes back to what I was saying earlier as well, that, oops, I snipped that one too close. There are no mistakes, move on. What I was saying before about how sometimes you'll just be looking through an image or through a magazine, and complementary images will just start popping out. It's like, oh, this matches, oh, that matches, oh, look, another bullseye target in the perfect shade of red. Like, yeah, it's kind of serendipitous how this sort of thing just happens, where you're looking for things in magazines and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this would work. Or, oh, look at that. Oh, look at these, this would work. Ah, fudge. Here's another one. See, this one I don't know if I'm gonna use because it's not quite the right shade of white, because it's casting a shadow on the wall. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Like, even though you see them on the page and they may look like they will go, just be conscious of things like shadows and colors and stuff like that, because it's not always gonna pop out as well as a stark white. Okay, I think that's enough of these guys. Did I get them all? I think so. Okay. All right. Now I'm just gonna snip around in pretty simple little squares. And I like cuts like this because I don't have to worry so much. And I mean, I don't normally worry much anyway when I'm collaging. That kind of defeats the purpose. But it's nice to be able to make linear cuts so that it just is easy. Easy on me, easy on my hands, easy on my brain. I think my battery is going to die soon, so if you see a cut in the footage, it's just because I had to go recharge and go eat some buttercream and come back. Like, this really excites me because it's like another dimension of the spiral, of the target, of the bullseye, of the colors. It will add visual dimension and almost, I'm hoping, make it look like fur or like some sort of fur-like pattern. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. Sometimes you just kind of have to finagle it a little bit to get it to kind of look straight. But we do our best, so if it's not perfect, who cares? Right. I know my slogan is there are no mistakes in collage, but it should be, if it's not perfect, who cares? I might have to put that on a t-shirt. Alrighty, so this one's like a halfie, so I don't need to snip too much of that. And this has a little bit of white around it, so I might not use this one because it's a little, it doesn't quite fit the pattern of it. But this one's better. A little bit. So are there any shapes or anything that you're particularly drawn to? Leave a comment in the comment box if there's any particular shapes. Like, are you always on the lookout for hearts, or are you particularly drawn to stars or triangles? I think for me it just depends on the specific collage that I'm looking for. I'm always sort of drawn to beautiful flowers like dahlias and roses, things that have really intricate leaf or petal patterns and different gradients of color and the shadow and light between the petals. I find that really, really visually interesting. So I don't know how many of these I need. If I want to, I might be able to put a couple of these on the tail as well. I might even be able to pop a couple of these closer to his face, but I'm just gonna make the half moons, and then we can play around with where we want to put them. And I'm just conscious of my camera because I'm scared it's gonna die. The type of mount that I have, you can't actually plug in the camera while it's filming, so. And I do appreciate everybody's patience. You know, starting a YouTube channel is different, and trying to figure out the best technology, the best mounts, the best everything for the job takes a bit of, it's a learning curve. But I think I'm getting the hang of it, so that's encouraging. Okay, so we have all of our little half moons here. We have his body, and I'm just going to, oops, I know basically where these go, so I'm not too concerned about making it all look perfect right now, but I really want to see how these little half moons will look going down his body. So I'm just gonna start putting them on the body. So do I want them to go in or out? I don't know. Okay, well, on that side I'll try the innies. And on this side I'll try the outies and just see which one I like better. So the innies more closely match the existing pattern of the bullseye, where the other ones are going contrary to the flow. So it just depends if I want to be a contrarian or not. And usually in art, you want to do the opposite of what looks normal. So at least with the types of collages that I do, it's kind of like, I want it to look weird. So I'm just trying to think what I like better. And I'm just going to do a couple, because I'm not going to lay them all down, I don't think, because I mean they're just going to move around anyway, so I'll probably just like lay them down when I go to glue. Okay, so we have
circles flowing into the concentric circles, and then we have circles flowing out. And I don't know which one I like better.
Oops. So I'm just gonna sit and ponder for a second and try to think which I do like better. I think I'm gonna stick with the ones that are flowing into the body, because then the half moons are gonna be kind of like scalloped, and I'm hoping will look more like fur. So I'm just gonna turn these around. Just see. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm down with that. And when I glue it, I'm gonna line up the edges exactly with the body, so that even though the image itself is square, what's gonna, or like the shape of the snippings are gonna be square, the images in itself should look like little tufts of stripy fur, I'm hoping. So I'll just, again, I don't know, maybe I'm more particular than I think I am. I thought I was just gonna like, oh, I'll just stick these down later, but I do want to see what it looks like just because, why not? Okay, so I think that looks really cool. And I'm going to lay down this fur, and then I'm gonna take a break to recharge my phone, have a little snack, play with my kitty cats, and then I will be back to search for some more. No! So this is why I tend not to get like super finicky with the pre-glue stage, because I literally touched it and they all flipped over. So I'm just gonna set these little guys onto the image. Oh shoot. Okay. Because these are so small, I'm just gonna set these aside, and I'm actually going to take them off of the image, or off the collage, just because they're gonna spray everywhere. And I just, from past experience, I know it's not worth being finicky. I know now the design that I want, so I'll just set them aside and carry on. All right, be back in a few. All right, so I'm liking how the composition of this is coming along, but I do need some sort of eyes. I'd like to add a little bit of more depth into the face. And I'm still looking for a couple more pieces of greenery to match up with the other side. So that's my plan for right now. So again, I'm gonna look through another food magazine, because they tend to have more of the vegetation. I really like these cherries. Just wondering. I wonder if I could do just one. Never mind. Thinking. Some basil. It's not quite the right color. Ooh, okra. I do like this here. I like the shape and how it's coming to a point, so that matches some of the other pieces of aloe. So I'm going to want to get in pretty tight and get those points. Oh, I think I'm going to have a visitor come in here soon. One of my cats just jumped on the table. And because this, I'm just looking here, this isn't quite coming to a point, I'm just gonna fudge it so that it looks like it's pointy and it kind of flows, but it wasn't really a pointy piece. So if something's not quite the shape that you want it, don't be scared to customize it to the shape of whatever you're trying to match it into. All right, so see, now I have kind of these pointy bits of okra. So when I bring back my image, I can see how it looks. So I really like how it's kind of spraying off the page, and what I might do is just see where it will look the coolest. So what I might even do is find a piece of creamy colored paper, and there's actually, on this page here, it's almost the exact same color. Actually, I'll just tear that out. But we have this big section of paper that looks very similar in color to the background on the other piece, on the other side. So I can stick a piece of paper under here so that it has something to stick to. So I think I'm gonna go with that. It looks very similar. It's not exact, but it's enough that I have something to adhere the pieces of okra to. And I'd like one more little chunk of something up there. This piece of okra is not going to be enough, so I'm still on the lookout. Just going to make sure I don't lose my bullseyes here. I apologize for the banging in the background. My cat is using the litter box, and she really goes hard. So I do apologize. All right. And while I'm doing this, I'm also still looking for legs. So when I look at stuff like the chicken wings, I'm thinking, would those work as legs? I'm always looking for ways that I can integrate more surreal aspects into my image. Sorry about that. My cat was having the zoomies and was running all over the table, so I'm back. All right, so I really like these spinach leaves, but I want a nice clean leaf that doesn't have a lot of other stuff on it. I'm still looking for paws. I'm kind of intrigued by these little feet here. I wonder how those would look. Don't know if they're big enough. It might not be the right proportion. No, not the right size. Okay, I am going to grab a house and home. Actually, I'm gonna grab a fashion magazine just to see if maybe there's something other than food that I could add, like maybe a piece of scarf or something. I'm also gonna start looking for limbs. So if I can find some little hands that I can put down as his feet, or maybe feet or something. And I'm also looking for eyes, and if I can find eyes that are in a contrasting color, so like a bright purple or a bright blue or golden. So let's see what we can find here. I love fashion. I've never really had the figure to wear really high-end fashion, but I have always loved high fashion. Oh, hey, good to know. I can integrate that into another image at some point. I wonder. I'm wondering if I can just, maybe that's what I'll do. Just because it's easier. I'm just gonna steal this particular piece of aloe and put it in the picture. So that solves that problem, I believe. If I could just put that right there, it'll match perfectly. It's cheating a little bit, but I think we have enough cool visual interest in here with some of the other vegetables. I think this gives it a little bit more consistency. So I'm just gonna go for it and add it in there. And I don't even have to be that precise with my cuts because the background is the exact same color, which is awesome. Oops. And it already has the defined edge on the side, so it'll just blend right in there. And I'm going to chop off the part that doesn't match. All right, so we already have this here, and I'm just gonna put this maybe right here so that it kind of still blends in. I'm actually gonna chop off this green part here because it doesn't quite fit. And ta-da! Here we go. It's perfect. It's not perfect. It's a jumble. But once we glue it down, it's gonna be perfectly imperfect. All right, so the only other thing that I need now is another little piece of that cream color, which I'm just gonna steal from the exact same advertisement here. Chop off a piece there, trim it up. And hopefully that'll be big enough to slip under here and continue that same whitish gray color. I'm just gonna try to gently lift. Okay, so the only other thing that I need, as I said, is eyes for my little beast here. And then I also want, I actually had a thought about that coffee, those swirly coffee bits, but now I can't remember where I put them. Oh, here they are. Beautiful. I wonder if I could put these kind of under here, or if that would just make his head float. Okay, I'll have to just let it go and use them in another project, because they don't quite work. Okay, so I'm on the hunt for arms and eyes. And here we have beautiful blue eyes. Proportionally, they're a little big, but I'm gonna cut them out anyway and just see that if I can make them work, because it might look cool by having kind of anime style big eyes on the dragon fruit head. So I'm just gonna trim this out. Oh, my hands are driving me nuts. But I think we're pushing, what, like over 2 hours now, which, I mean, I'll be frank, is pretty typical. I don't know why it takes me so long to collage. I think part of it is because it's really meditative, and I get quite into just, I don't know, so much about the collage process feeds into my passions. So like even when I'm looking through the magazines, I'm always looking at it through the eye of a photographer. So I'm looking at, you know, how they've used composition and perspective and textures and shapes and colors and contrasts. And I'm always learning from the images that I see. They're not always, my learnings aren't always in relation to collage. A lot of the stuff is, again, just things that I'm interested in as an artist. So I think that might have something to do with why things take me so long. Okay, so I'm just gonna trim up this one to match because I kind of cut off more of the under eye here on the other one, just so that it matches better. Okay, so I have these two eyes, and I'm gonna, not that I'm a perfectionist or anything, but I want this to be, have that same sort of swooping shape. Okay. So I have my eyes, and I'm gonna just take a second and see how they would look on this guy here. Okay, that's creepy. But I like creepy. Why not? It's pretty funny. Okay, so that's an option. He looks kind of sad like that. I'm gonna try to, I wonder, okay, if I can, I have to do it in a way that I can cover up, I don't know, maybe he needs different, I don't know. Okay, now I'm thinking maybe not eyes, but something else that could be eye-like. Just because the shape of these triangles are so kind of stocky and narrow, I think something more circular or square shaped might cover it up. I may end up leaving it, but it's kind of not as visually interesting as I would like it to be if I just leave it. So we will keep on looking. Love that shirt. Right. I love this leaf. Not for this picture, but I'll have to remember that. I'm wondering if like maybe big rosebuds or something would look cool as eyes. I tend to have a lot of floral in my work. I just tend to gravitate towards flowers. Those look pretty cool. I wonder about the blue. I'm just looking at these blue flowers. I wish there was two that matched better in terms of their size. I'm wondering even the white one with the blue one, but I don't know if it would cover up. I have a feeling it wouldn't cover it up enough. Like in terms of size. So I'm just looking to see, because I don't want to spend all that time cutting it out if it's not going to cover the eye. And I don't think it will. So I will save those for another time and keep looking. Ooh, I like these. So I'm still getting the same color. It's gonna match the color of the mouth. I'm just gonna double check and see if these fit. And I think they'll do the trick. Okay, I'm gonna cut these out. I like that little bit of luxury and I don't know, metallics seem to have a really interesting feel. I don't normally, like I wouldn't normally do a whole image in metallics, but it's an option for the future for sure. But I really like adding little metallic elements to the pictures, just for that little bit extra depth, luxury. Yeah. See, this is where it for me gets a little frustrating because I can't get the cuts as tight as I would like. But again, I just have to be thankful for the mobility I do have and just be okay with it. But it is, I wish I could get like super fine cuts. But I also I tend to favor instant gratification. So I don't know if I could spend 2 hours cutting out one piece of one image. Like I want to be able to sit down and do a collage on a Sunday and have it done by the end of the afternoon. So how long does it normally take you guys to do a collage? My average is about 3 hours. I have been known to do some more simple collages in less time, but most of them tend to be fairly intricate. So it takes me a bit longer. So I will be honest, I don't know if I like these now that I've cut them out. Oops. So I'm just gonna overlay these here and see if I like it. Because I might, but I'm not sure. I don't think there's enough of a contrast. Like I understand that the original eyes are a similar shade, but I was kind of hoping for more of a pop. So I'm going to set these aside and use them on a different project. And the hunt continues. That's just me crunching a cough candy, if you can hear that. So I think I'm at the point now where I'm judging by the shape of the eye. I think I'm looking for something that's a circle. So 2 similar circles of something. I don't know what yet. I'm looking at the gloves, wondering if I could cut those out, or if it would look good as feet. That's what I'm thinking. This is interesting, actually. I'm just wondering how to integrate the feet into the rest of the body. I'm contemplating just doing like 2 small red circles, or like red cherries. Okay. I'm moving on. Just looking for a different magazine, something might have different imagery in it. I like this type of magazine because it has a lot of really cool artwork in it. A lot of other artists have done really cool stuff in these magazines. I'm actually drawn to these hands in prayer. I'm just going to try something and we'll see what it looks like. I don't know if it's okay. It's not the right it's not the right color for what I'm looking to do. I really like this. Just wondering if there's a way that I can, I'm just gonna try something. I'm thinking for the front of his chest, like if I'm looking at this as though it's some sort of cat-like creature. Most cats have a really fluffy chest area. So I'm wondering if I can make that kind of stand out with, I'm looking at the lines here and I really like how it contrasts with itself. So I'm just gonna cut out the dome. I'm gonna end up having to trim it down if I decide I want to use it. But I really like the stripe pattern, the curved stripes. It looks really cool. All right, so I just tried to trim this into a point. I'm just gonna try to make it a little pointier. And I'm thinking something like this. And again, I have the elements of my tail here to come out this way. But I kind of like it. I kind of like the contrasting shape there. And I think when I get these back in here, where it's that sort of shape, it might look pretty neat. Thinking. Again, these little bullseyes, I may not end up using them, but I want that option if I change my mind or if I decide to go in that direction. I really kind of like it just seems to sort of line up right in the bullseye. And I kind of like how this is more sort of soft and stomach-like for the animal. And then if I have my tail stuffs here, look, it's even curved. If I have my tail stuff here and have the tail branching off, oops. I think it might, I don't know. I'm contemplating it. I'm wondering even if this would look good. Okay. So this is when it starts to get really fun because there's so many ways that it can go, but you also have to be conscious that, you know, you have to know when to show some restraint, and, you know, you want it to be busy, you want it to be full and visually interesting, but you also want to make sure that it's still balanced. I'm just orienting it a bit better just so I can get an idea of shape, the shapes of things. Oops. Get under there. Okay. So just some rearranging here. Okay. I kind of like it. It's almost like a lizard. Like how a lizard has that kind of cape around its neck. And then what I am thinking is that it would contrast really well with blue eyes, some sort of blue eye there. Okay. Thinking. Okay. Go back to my magazine here. I like the butterflies. Blueberries, maybe. Beautiful tree. Such beautiful artwork in some of these magazines too. These are interesting because they have eyes in them. I'm curious how those would look. I'm gonna go for it. I'm just gonna cut them out and see how they look. I really like the purple. I like how it matches with the new little cape or the bib that the creature has. So let's see here. So again, I'm always on the lookout for tonal and color commonalities. Look how well that purple, I can see it here. Hopefully they look good on the actual eyes, but if you see what I'm going for here, right? I'm looking at going, oh, hey, the shades of the purple match the shades of his bib. So if I put them up in the eyes, it'll tie everything together. So I'm gonna try it and just see if the flowers end up looking kind of like eyes at the end of all this. I'm just gonna cut this so that it's easier to work with. And as I come to the end of the design process, then we're gonna get into the gluing, which sometimes things change. Sometimes they stay exactly as I planned when I started the gluing process. But as you start to lay stuff down, it changes sometimes, and your only limit is your imagination. I know it's cliche, but it's so true, because you can just, there are no limits. You can do whatever you like. So the other thing to keep in mind too is that, you know, it's nice to have other people admire your work and, you know, compliment your efforts, and, you know, it makes us feel good about what we're doing. But in the end, so much art is about your own joy and your own experience creating it. You know, I look back at collages that I've done, and I remember making all of them, and I remember what I was feeling at the time, and how, you know, how my mental state at the time kind of dictated what I created in that moment. And, you know, I think you can talk to any artist and they would say that their images are based on life a lot of times, you know. So I'm just going in trying to make those finer cuts. A good tip, it's easier to do these finer cuts with really sharp scissors, and also using the very tip of the scissors. So you can see I'm trying to make like really delicate cuts here. Sometimes they work, sometimes they just don't, because my fingers shake. So you do your best. And one more little cut, and then we'll see if they look really weird or if they're super, super neat. I'm hoping for super neat, but we will see. Okay, so I'm bringing back my canvas here with my two little purple eyes, and I'm gonna try and see how they look. And what I might do too is put them this way so that they're in the same flow as real flowers, but also with the aloe and the greenery behind it. So I think those look really kind of cool. So that's them facing upwards, kind of like a clown. This is gonna be a kind of scary, it's not scary, it's supposed to be fun and lighthearted. I'm gonna flip them upside down and just see if it makes them less, I don't know. It's not that I don't like them. I just think that, oh, this looks more like eyelashes this way. And that's the thing, I'm just trying and seeing what looks good. Oops. So what do you think? Up or down? You have to apologize. I have to apologize for the rustling. My cat is annoying. Anybody that owns a cat knows that that's just the way they are. Okay, so this is them facing the other way, which is, I think, the way that I'm gonna go. I really like how it's looking. And now I'm just gonna try to build out its hands or its feet or whatever those may be. So, trying to look for something that looks foot-like or hand-like or something. This has potential. I'm just gonna, because she's holding something, that something can be anything. So if I use these as the hands, then I could potentially put something in her hands, its hands. Again, just thinking about how that would look and if it's the right proportions. And I don't believe it is. I think they're too big. Maybe. I think it's just slightly the wrong size. Good in theory, potential, but not quite what I'm looking for. Okay, let's try a good old Woman's Day. See if there's anything here. Just trying to think what would look good as feet. So one of the things with collage is I'm not specifically looking for anything. I'm just looking for something that I think would look good in the image. So when it jumps out at me, it'll be like, oh yeah, that would be so cool. But until something jumps out at me, it's kind of like I'm just trying to see what would look good. I'm looking at these two flowers, thinking I might be able to use these as feet. I'm gonna cut them out, but I'm gonna keep looking because I think the detail in the flowers might be lost once I cut them. But I'm gonna I don't want to lose them, so I'm gonna grab them while I see them here. So that's maybe. Lipstick is tempting. Like having two upside down lipsticks for feet. See, and this is when it's like, I have ideas in my head, but the images, I can't find images to match what I want to put in there. So we will keep on looking. So what was your first collage? You can leave some notes in the comments about your first projects and things that you've learned along the way, and you know, maybe somebody would get some inspiration from some of your experiences. I'm looking at these legs, thinking those look pretty cool. Just wondering if they're long enough for legs. I like too that her shoes match the cape. I'm gonna cut them out and see where we land on these ones. Okay, so I'm gonna cut it as high up as I can so I don't lose too much leg. And I'm just gonna trim to the height of what the shoes are, just so that I can see if it's even going to do what I want it to do. I'm thinking, okay, thinking. I don't know what I'm thinking, but it's a work in progress. I think I'm considering again going back to the chair idea, like having legs, some sort of legs for this. Okay, bear with me as I explore a bit more. Oh, I love this. Okay. Ooh, I like this. This might be it, actually, now that just gonna chop this out. One of the things that I tend to have too is kind of the ability to see things upside down as I look at them, because I'm just like, bring all my little circles back. I'm looking at this thinking, hey, this kind of looks like paws, right? So if I kind of trim this up, trim, it's in the right white palette as the rest of his fur, but then I can trim off maybe, I'm just gonna go under here. I'm just looking. Oops, I'm just gonna go back and clean up that edge there. So you know how when cats sit like a loaf, their paws are kind of tucked under? Oops. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. And I don't want to lose that bit of the light underneath. I'll try to capture as much of it as I can. I cut half of it off. It's all good, no worries. There we go. And try to level it off. I'm kind of annoyed with this little chunk here still. Just gonna try to get a little bit more off. There we go. Okay, so if you look at the legs, they kind of look like two little paws tucked under, like cats do when they're sitting down. So now I'm gonna take this and see if it sort of matches what I'm thinking here. So he has his little feet. Okay, I'm going to, I'm thinking here, I'm going to kind of fudge the pattern. So I'm going to cut the paper to match what I want it to look like, not what the image actually is. So I want there to be kind of like this round, like cartoon cats have, right? That little round chest, like Tom and Jerry. It's not bad, not great. I'm just gonna make it more even. There we go. So I'm kind of thinking something like this here, so that it looks like it's paws here. So it all kind of lines up. And then what I want to do is something on the feet so that it makes it look like paws. So what I'm thinking is actually triangles. And the only reason I'm thinking, you know what? I wonder, now that I'm looking at these, if I could take two of these or a couple of these. What's interesting, and I just want to stress, my design changes constantly. So, you know, what I had planned for the body is totally different than what I initially thought it was going to be. But pieces of what I found can still be used on the image. So I'm just gonna cut this out and see if I can add these to the feet to kind of make them like elephant's feet. Like, you know how they have the little circular toenails kind of, or like half moon toenails. And then I'm also gonna see if I might be able to work in those rose petals, but I don't, you're gonna laugh when you hear what I was just about to say. I don't want to make it too busy, but I don't. Like, I want it to be balanced and visually interesting, but I don't want it to be so cluttered that you can't distinguish between the different elements of the picture or see the larger picture for what it is. It's kind of like Monet in that way, right? Like when you look at it up close, it's like, whoa, this is like a ton of different, oh, peanut butter, oh, grapes, whatever. But when you step back from it, you can see that whole picture of this like cool animal or whatever this is. I don't know. Creature. Okay, so I really like how that looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 more half moons, and that will give me those sort of toenails. It'll tie in to the stripe on his bullet. It'll look like a similar fur. And actually, I'm thinking I don't need the roses. I was gonna possibly put them behind the half moons, but I actually like how it looks. So I'm just gonna keep on with this theme. And I cut that one a little too much, but that's okay. Oops. So doot, doot, doot. Get this one going here. And thank goodness all the cats are asleep again, because it was getting pretty rowdy there for a while. They all had the zoomies at the same time, which when you're trying to do collage, you're just like, please don't jump on the table. Please. Okay. I think that looks really neat. So I'm gonna go with that for his feet. So you see how he's kind of, the tail's kind of wonked out here, but you see how his feet look like kind of elephant feet almost. The only other thing that I'm kind of having second thoughts about is its mouth. So I really like how everything's coming together and how everything's looking. The only part I don't like is that. And I think the reason is just too Halloween-y, a little scary. With the combination of the eyes, it's a little clowny, which I don't really want. So I was thinking maybe like really nice, plump female lips, or I could do something where I put a rose petal there, like a rose for the mouth or something like that. So I am gonna keep looking. I'm just gonna grab my fashion magazine again so that I'm not looking through a home and garden magazine trying to find lips. But I'm gonna try to do this pretty quickly so that I can move on to gluing. And if I can find lips in a contrasting color, that would be even better, which in some of these high fashion magazines, you'd be surprised. Even if I could get like orange or even black and white might look cool. The angle's not quite right and they're a little big. See, those look pretty nice, but again, I would prefer to find a picture where the person is looking straight on, just so that it matches. That's pretty good. Oh, those look nice, but they're really big. Well, would it look weird if it had really big lips? That's just where my mind goes. I'm like, how weird would it look with like quadruple sized lips? Probably pretty cool. I don't know. I might have to. Are these different sizes? Oops. I'm just trying to see if this one's smaller. Or what I could even do is overlay them, which would be kind of an interesting way to do it. If one pair is, I might actually do that. Since it was what I was talking about trying to make it more three-dimensional. I'm just gonna try it, see what it looks like. I like the tone of the brown. I think it helps kind of tone down that bright pink. I'm just wondering, before I spend all the time doing it, how big the mouth is gonna be. I might have to go with just the smaller mouth. Oh, that looks better. All right, turn that frown upside down. I know it's upside down, but I think it's gonna look pretty cool. Oops. And the little divot up top, or Cupid's bow, I think it's called. So I want to try to make it as symmetrical as I can. Oops, that was a mistake. There are no mistakes, remember? What I'm gonna do is actually, because I want this to be the top, or sorry, the bottom of the lip, I'm just gonna actually trim it off. Trim there too. Okay, so just getting a little bit more fine detail here. There we go. Okay, so we'll see how this looks. Oops. So we have the mouth. Now, if we want to cover it up, it would look like that. And that is upside down, so it looks kind of weird. How does it look right side up? Is that right side up? I can't remember. See, to me, this is upside down and it looks way better. Okay. I think we have our winner. I think that looks pretty funny. I'm just looking at it thinking if it looks the way I want it to look, if there's anything I could add, anything I could take away, anything that's bugging me. So I'm having second thoughts about the lips. The only reason I say that is because I don't like it. The reason I initially selected them is because it matches really well with the stalk of the dragon fruit, but I don't think it is enough contrast. I'd really like to have some pop there, so I'm gonna keep it aside just in case, but I'm gonna try to find something a little bit more stand outy. Thinking. Oops. It's too bad because these would look really good, but they're too big. It would look very odd. Not really finding what I'm looking for. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm just gonna look through Martha Stewart real quick. So I think I know what I'm looking for, but I'm not finding what I'm looking for. So it's specific colors, textures, something that I can just put over the mouth that just kind of draws everything together. But I want it to match the fur, the stripy fur. Yeah, I'm even thinking like going back to the roses, like if there's a way that I could kind of overlay them and just make like a nice little mouth or something. But if I could find one thing that would just, I could just pop right on there and it would look cool, like that would be ideal. I actually kind of like this. I don't think it's big enough again. just me scouring and not finding what I'm looking for. Okay, I'm gonna try a different type of magazine. Maybe, this is the local magazine here in Edmonton. Maybe there's some cool ads in here that'll have something. This is interesting. This is interesting. Just because of the target theme, the bullseye, I think I can overlay these to recreate a circle. I'm just gonna try that. And I think, I'm just wondering, oops. If this will be big enough to cover the mouth. I'm going to try, but I don't know if it's actually going to cover. Maybe what I'll do is just cut a bit of an extra border around it to try to make it bigger. Problem is, I can't keep my hands straight. That's okay. We're working. Okay. Nope. Boo boo. Okay, so this is half of a mouth. And I think if I put this here, possibly, and put this one going the other way, I might be able to recreate a bullseye. Again, there's no mistakes in collage, and I'm always open to refining, changing, updating, scrapping if something's not working, something doesn't look good. The only person that you're here to please is yourself. So if something's not going well, something's not working, something's not looking good, and I just chopped like a big hunk out of it. If something's not going well, then you can just change it anytime you want. So there's the circle. Oops. The mouth, I guess. I don't know if I like that. I like it possibly if I cover up his nose. Looks like Pokeroo. Do you guys remember Pokeroo? Pokeroo! If you're Canadian, you totally get it. If you're American, you should look it up on YouTube because it's really, really fun. I think I might actually keep the nose. I'm thinking it looks pretty cool. So all I'm gonna do is just round the edges a bit more, just so that it flows a little bit better. And but I want to be careful not to cut off too much because I need to cover up as much of this as I can. So that's this guy here. Pokeroo! Perfect. And then his other little nose. And you see the blue of his nose is tying in together the purple of his eyeshadow, the blue of his eyes, that little tinge of blue in his cape, or his bib, or whatever that is under his chin. Oops. Just trying to get that visual continuity in the piece, right? So I'm just trying to round the corners a little bit so it's as circular as I can get it. And what I'll probably do is glue these together and then glue it onto the thing, just so that I can make sure that the circle is like as circular as I can get it. And even still, like, it's so close to fitting. But I will make it fit. I will make it work. It'll work. It'll work. All right. Okay, enough fiddling. Ta-da! Okay, so what do I have? I have a pokeroo dragon fruit striped tiger target bullseye creature thing with a spiny green back. And I love it. I think it looks really cool, except I lost my little half moons. Oh, they all fell on the floor, so I will retrieve them. And when I come back, we will start gluing. I'll probably make it a part 2 to the video, just so that it's not 15 hours long. But we will get back to gluing and seeing how our creature takes shape.